Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. I'm Reverend MeeLing. I've been known by a few names: Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle. Few names. So there's this point in time when I was in Washington State, and I was introduced to a volunteer named David. And looking back to that point in time when I was introduced to that particular individual, at that time, I didn't recognize him. He just was some other male in the place I was volunteering at in Seattle. And then, that individual, now that I look back now, I don't remember what year that was. I can't remember whether that was 2016. I think it was 2016. Though it could have been 2017. And looking back, kind of looked like my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen, her husband, David. Reason why I say that is for whatever excuse, because for the usual volunteers, they knew when it came to the shower, which, yes, co-ed shower, yes, that was technically allowed. However, the females knew I had no problem. The shower, and yeah, I know, most males, woohoo, but, getting ready, whatever. And there were a couple of times where a few of the males would be in the shower as a co-ed shower, but they also were males who understood where things were at that point in time, and it was completely out of respect. However, that particular time, went to go into the shower, and that particular individual named David just went in the shower. I moved further away than I already was. And, kind of looking back now, looks like my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen's husband, David. Shaved head, pasty color complexion, that whole thing. So, at that point in time, he even had said his wife's name was Mary. Now, I know that there are plenty of people named David and Mary that could be in a relationship. However, with what occurred during my Medal of Honor art project and certain other issues, for example, when I had initially met Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen and her husband, David Osteen, which David was in the Air Force, or he was going to basic training at Lackland Air Force Base the first time I met her and him, along with Mary's two daughters, Sondra Marie Osteen and Ariel Marie Osteen. See, I was trying to remember this sort of stuff, but then there was a bunch of other stuff that was going on, including the neighbors in 736 that just, for whatever excuse they have, keep running their mouths. And I could have swore I saw Sondra Marie Osteen in Olympia, Washington at one point in time, as well as in Lakewood, Washington, when I got a haircut from Hung. Isn't that an irony of ironies? And my cell phone went missing at that time. And then I could have swore I saw Ariel Mary Osteen at the front office area in a floppy hat. Older, albeit, but nonetheless the same soul sort of thing. Though, I guess I technically can make a joke and say souls in reference to, well, hypothetically being in that cherubim category. And thus, you know, depending what you believe as far as certain religious and spiritual aspects, specifically because of, you know, how I was working on my Medal of Honor art project, which I'm getting more and more enraged that things have not occurred in certain references. And it's funny-ish that the patio out on my apartment just seems to get bigger and bigger cracks, and then the door to my washer and dryer area, there's an issue with the shutting of it, almost like there's a shift in the building structure, hypothetically. And so, you know, just saying. And then there was that earthquake apparently in Mexico recently, and a couple other earthquakes in a few other locations, not forgetting a couple of storms that have really stirred up whether you believe certain things or not, today being the 24th of June 2020, and a few situations. You know, I mean, there is that thing that people said as far as in the prophecies of the Bible in various areas that I had been told was a joke. People looked at that as a joke. And I told them, no, I don't think those are jokes. When I was a child growing up in New Jersey, in reference to God being the only one who could raise the dead. And then there's my Medal of Honor art project. And then there's that aspect in reference to, you know, where I landed at the bottom of the ocean and surfaced. And, you know, then there's that whole aspect of, what is it? What is that song? The one that says, where angels have trodden. And if you take into consideration, you know, walked where angels have trod, there's a lot of individuals who did descend into the ocean that just didn't ascend because it just wasn't a safe dive for them. And, or there was a shipwreck. And then there's that whole aspect that the church that I grew up going to, and most churches in the United States of America, when you walk inside, it looks like an upside down ship, because that's just the type of carpenters that were available at the times that the older ones were built. And, you know, for example, Old Tenet Presbyterian Church, the only carpenter that they had that was available to construct that church to be used as a hospital during the Revolutionary War had been a shipbuilder. And if you actually look inside, you can see where the keel is and the hull, and so on and so forth, with the exception of where the pews are. Because, of course, the pews are on the ground floor, where it would actually be the deck of the ship, but upside down. It's a little twisted. And so, I mean, from the exterior, of course, you really wouldn't technically be able to see it. However, if you look at where the bell tower is, you could almost make a joke that that could be where a propeller would go. Or the steering wooden piece that, I don't remember what that's called. The fin, right? That would be where the fin would be. And, you know, the doors were just evenly placed in 3 specific locations and elongated, essentially where the plank would be. I mean, even the walkway up to the church kind of looks like an elongated plank. Just saying. Even, here's another little joke, especially after going to the Kitty Hawk, or the USS or USNS Kitty Hawk in Bremerton, that brick pathway, that little kind of rounded but kind of rectangle area, kind of looks like that little portion of the ship that kind of stuck out from the deck. I mean, just saying, hypothetically speaking. And so in that reference, you know, while I had gone to Georgia before going to Florida, and then there's that joke, right? Because songs and music and stuff. Florida-Georgia line. And, you know, I went to Georgia first and saw my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen, along with her husband, David Osteen, who was in the Air Force. And I did warn Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen when it came to my dead ex-husband, her dead brother / spiritual husband, about do not do anything. Do not contact people in reference to your dead brother. Let me handle it. And she let me know that she knew people. She knew all sorts of elected officials in Georgia. And, you know, I look as I do, and she looked normal in, you know, because I just look like me. I have my hairstyle and hair color and tattoos, and I had some of them at that point in time. And, you know, I look like me. You know, if I didn't look like me, she could take me seriously. Now. And then, you know, here's a quick little irony of ironies. So, I had been accused of outing people back in 2011. And I told that particular individual I did not do that. I didn't have the time, especially at that point. I did not have the time to be doing that. However, my ex-sister-in-law, Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen, had said that if she didn't like the way certain things ended with certain individuals, in specific in the swinging lifestyle that she had been a part of, that she would contact people if she didn't get her way. And they believe her because she looks normal, you know, because I look like me. And so she was quite bitter in reference to the fact that in my house in Carrollton, Texas, she noticed that I did not have pictures of my dead ex-husband in my bedroom. He was my ex-husband before he went back to active duty. He had his own apartment that he lived in before he went back in. Whether she wanted to pay attention to that or not is not my problem, technically-ish. However, she didn't want to pay attention to the fact that we were not together at all when he actually left. At all. And so she was upset that I didn't have pictures of my dead ex-husband in my bedroom. However, when I went out to Georgia, she made sure to point out, look, she kept her dead brother picture on her nightstand. That is creepy. That's creepy. So creepy. Just ew. Nonetheless, there was a point in time in reference to my daughter, and the Child Protective Services in San Antonio, Texas, told me that I had to reach out to at least one individual my daughter could possibly go with. And they told me to put in the aspects of the VA and SSI or whatever it is as far as my daughter being concerned. Showed them the message on Facebook before I sent it, and both the female and the male Luis had said, yep, maybe you should add this, this, and this just extra, as far as, making my son more available for them to spend time with. I really didn't want to, but that was their suggestion, to try to incentivize Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen to do the right thing. And then I got a response that I don't remember what it was, but I also felt the energy in which it was sent. And so I made a whole bunch of hopings. And if Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen did not contact Grandma Nichols, instead, that is something Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen has to deal with. If Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen did not contact Susie Marie Nichols Lopez instead, that's on her. I did not have their contact information anymore because of the fact that anytime I had moved for my daughter, I had to get a new cell phone, as I was told, as it was explained to me, because of moving. I had initially, for example, when moving from San Antonio to Carrollton, I thought that a cell phone number could just go with, because why wouldn't it work when I could go places and the cell phone number work? I was told initially by Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr., that's not how cell phones work. You need to change the phone number so that way you just look at it like a landline. It's the same sort of thing. Okay. When moving from Carrollton, Texas to Cedar Park, Texas, for my daughter in that regard, not just my son and my daughter in reference from moving from San Antonio to Carrollton, Texas, before that whole thing happened with McCoy Elementary School, the male that I knew at the time, Philip Olmsted, had told me needed to do that for the cell phone, because it's just like a landline. Gotta change it. Are you sure? Because I've driven with my cell phone and it works. No, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so then I switched the phone numbers because that's what I was told, because I don't know technology stuff. Okay, fine. So then when moving from Cedar Park, Texas to Irving, Texas, to be closer to a different hospital for my daughter, I was told by Patrick Kennedy the same thing. You need to do it this way. So that way, it's like a landline. You got to change the phone number. Okay, did that. Then, when moving from Irving, Texas, back to San Antonio, Texas, my biological mother told me that I needed to change my cell phone number because it was like a landline number. Okay. So, with my now ex-boyfriend, the one as far as Stoney LaRue concert, Cowboys Dance Hall, that whole thing, when on the way to essentially Washington State where it wound up, I was told, gotta change your cell phone numbers because, that whole thing. Okay. I'd been told that so many different times by that point. Well, I guess that's just how that goes. And then, funny thing happened when I moved to the state of Texas. The cell phone numbers still work, albeit much slower because apparently, despite the unlimited plan, apparently after a certain something another of numbers, it's called throttling down. I thought that unlimited meant unlimited. Does that make sense to me? Just saying. Apparently, unlimited means differently as far as what was explained to me. However, in that reference, in regards to the irony of that male looking just like David from Georgia, David Osteen. Well, if that happened to be him, he should have known better than to, I understand if other people do as they do, free will and all. However, then there's that moral and ethical thing, and you either choose to remain with someone that would do something like that, or you don't. So hypothetically, if Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen and or her daughters, Sondra Marie Osteen and or Ariel Marie Osteen, had caused problems to my Medal of Honor art project, and whether David stayed with her knowing such and or supported her, what is that term? Guilt by association? And him having been in the Air Force for the United States of America's Armed Forces, well, then there's no denying that he would know what it takes to earn a Medal of Honor. And to be a part of that, whether directly or indirectly, that would be a problem. Now, I do remember at one point in time, after telling Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen, do not get involved. Let me do what I need to do. I know how I have to go up the chain of command. Because going up the chain of command, you have to do that a certain way. However, when I went out to Georgia in 2009, just before going to Florida, Mary Evongelina Nichols Osteen had mentioned that she had gone to people she knew and went the way she did, and that David, her husband, was about to be put in the National Guard, or had been demoted. No. He had been demoted from active duty to reserve. That he could be an activated reserve, but was demoted from active duty to reserve. I warned her back in 2008. Even her own father, Grandpa Nichols, had warned her. Don't get in my way. So, with that thing that so many people said was a joke in reference to raising the dead. Well, whether you believe certain things or not, aside from that whole, I landed at the bottom of the ocean and surfaced in 3 different locations. One being in the Mothius abyss. Safely descended and safely ascended each time. Whether you want to pay attention to where weather actually originates, well, and whether you want to believe or not in reference to certain spiritual aspects of my Medal of Honor art project, I hypothesize this to you to ponder, at minimum, by technicalities, with just doing the rubbing, not forgetting the other aspects of the fact I was taught how to do a historical and spiritually accurate gravestone rubbing. Last I checked, a gravestone marker is on the ground or in the ground and vertical to a certain height. Correct? Correct. That is a rhetorical question. So when doing just the rubbing, not forgetting the other aspects, but just the rubbing, lifting it up would mean raising that, correct? From the ground where the marker's at, or the ground where the marker is embedded in. Not forgetting that historical and spiritual aspect. However, for those that don't believe in certain things, just the actions of taking the rubbing and picking it up, that would technically be considered raising it, correct? Not forgetting the artwork and all that other stuff, nonetheless, I warned people it wasn't a joke back when I was growing up in New Jersey when discussing the Bible. I warned people at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. Not a joke. But you know what they say about jokes? There's always truth behind jokes at some point. And then in Illinois at Ridgefield Crystal Lake Presbyterian Church, when that was joked about, I said the same thing. I even explained to the youth group there of my training on how to do historical and spiritually accurate gravestone rubbings for my elective during my confirmation class at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. And then after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, with certain individuals that wanted to make fun of the Bible and make jokes in reference to certain things, brought up points that I just mentioned in this official YouTube video, among others. And then there's this official YouTube video with that explanation, because it's literally, you know, I have to get down to the ground to do the rubbing, whether it's a flat marker on the ground or a horizontal marker that I have to lower myself to get the rubbing to then stand up to take to my vehicle wherever I'm going. Yes. And then my Medal of Honor art project artwork is meant to be hung on a wall, which would mean it would be above where it originally was, or if not hung on a wall, it could be hung from a ceiling, which would make it higher than just the wall because of my design. And then, if you take into another consideration my website, where, pray tell, pun intended on the words, where, oh where, does the techie stuff go when it comes to the internet? Does it go in the ground? Or does it go through Wi-Fi and your cell phones, which would mean towers, right? And those cords, which would be up above the ground, just by the locations. Yes. And then there's those satellites in the sky that are orbiting the Earth. And then there's whether you believe in what is called alien life forms or not. They do exist. They do. I know there are people who really want to continue to live in denial and think that human beings are the most intelligent life forms in the universe. No, that's arrogant. I've said that so many times to people before. I was laughed at. What could I know? Just me. So, for anybody that uses a cell phone, if you've used a cell phone to look at my website and any of the pictures I've posted as far as my Medal of Honor art project, is your hand in the air above where that marker would have been. Yes, that would be the case. If you are looking on a computer, your desktop or your laptop is above the ground, correct? Yes, it is. Okay. And again, that Wi-Fi, internet, even if you use a landline, it still goes through the airwaves and something with tacky stuff, which is above the ground. Yes, it is. Hello, I've been here a couple of years. Not here specifically in the apartment that I live in, but I've been, on Earth for a couple of years, just since I, was conceived. That's all. So, you guys have a good one. And as far as those of you who caused malicious problems to my Medal of Honor art project, good luck sleeping. I'm sure there have been some issues. Comment, like, share, and subscribe to my official YouTube channel. Have a good one.